Okay, so let's get right into it. We're going to talk about moving those big, complex Elementor sites, but doing it the right way. That means we're ditching those fragile plugins that always seem to time out, and we're taking full control using the power of the command line. This is all about turning what is usually a super stressful task into a predictable, repeatable, professional engineering event. You've been there, right? I know I have. That absolute sinking feeling in your stomach when you click migrate and boom. You're staring at a 500 internal server error or just the dreaded PHP timeout screen. It's this universal pain point, especially with giant Elementor sites where the old-school tools just can't hang.
And this is the real light bulb moment. What if the problem isn't the act of moving the data itself? What if the real failure point is that we're relying on these application layer plugins that are literally trapped inside the very PHP environment they're trying to move? An environment that has all these strict memory and time limits.
So, that brings us to a totally new way of thinking, what we're calling a sovereign approach. We're going to stop treating migration like it's just another WordPress task. Instead, we're going to treat it like a systems-level infrastructure event. This is all about taking back control and engineering a process that's robust, predictable, and resilient, right from the ground up.
In this slide just lays it all out side by side. Look at the contrast. On one side, you've got the typical plugin method. It's a black box, right? You click a button and hope for the best. But it's fragile, and it's always at the mercy of server timeouts. But on the other side, you have shell-level tools that operate at the system level. This approach is deterministic, meaning it does the same thing every time. It's repeatable, and crucially, it completely bypasses those PHP limits. You get total transparency.
And this is the core idea we're building everything on: architectural sovereignty. You got to see this as a strategic shift. You are no longer just a passenger in the car, hoping that some plugin gets you to your destination. No. You are the pilot. You're in the cockpit, using professional-grade tools to make sure your data has a smooth, predictable journey. Now, to pull this off, you can't just wing it. We use a structured, 6-phase playbook. Think of it less like a chaotic move and more like a planned, almost military-grade operation. It has clear stages, clear goals, and very clear responsibilities. So here's a quick look at that journey. It all starts with a really deep audit, so you know exactly what you're dealing with. Then it moves into provisioning the new server, syncing the data, and executing a super precise cutover. After that, there's a clean handoff to the developers, and it all finishes with long-term monitoring. See? Every single step is defined. Okay, now we're at the absolute heart of the operation, moving the data itself. This is where we break out the shell-level commands to sync all the files and the database with total precision, speed, and integrity. And right here, you can see the two workhorses of our migration. We're using rsync with some specific flags to efficiently sync all the WordPress files. And then we use MySQL dump to create a perfect, consistent snapshot of the database. These commands are totally transparent, you can audit them, and most importantly, they completely bypass those crippling PHP limits we talked about. But wait, we can go even faster. Instead of using old single-threaded tools like gzip, we can supercharge the process with multi-threaded alternatives like Pigz or Zstd. Think of it like this. By using all of the available CPU cores at once, we can compress these massive database dumps and file archives in a tiny fraction of the time. This dramatically shrinks our maintenance window. All right, now for the most sensitive part of this entire process, the cutover. This is the moment we actually flip the switch. It's a short, intense period that has to be executed with, surgical precision, and it all happens inside a predefined maintenance window. This slide shows you the exact sequence of events. First, we take one final backup. This is our non-negotiable rollback point. Then, we pop the site into maintenance mode. And here's a really brilliant move. We use a simple shell command to deactivate Elementor on the source server. This instantly reduces its load to almost nothing, and we haven't deleted a single file. It's genius. A professional process isn't just about what you do, it's also about what you avoid doing. A truly successful migration is about proactively identifying and neutralizing the most dangerous digital landmines that can just completely blow up your project. This right here is landmine number 1, and it is the absolute #1 killer of Elementor migrations. See, Elementor stores all its layout data in these things called serialized PHP strings. If you just run a simple find and replace on the database to change the URL, it's a death sentence for your layouts. Why? Because if the new URL has a different number of characters, that little length marker breaks and poof,
your layouts are completely destroyed.
And this is exactly why you never, ever run a raw SQL update for URLs. The only safe way to do this is to use WP-CLI. The search replace command is smart, it's serialization aware, and the Elementor replace URLs command handles all of Elementor's specific metadata. Using these two tools isn't just a good idea, it's non-negotiable if you want to protect your data.
Okay, so here's a trickier landmine, one you'll see especially if you're using shared storage, like NFS. When Elementor regenerates its CSS, it deletes the old file and recreates a new one. Well, if a server is still holding a reference or a handle to that old file that's now gone, the whole system can just hang. It's a really subtle but totally catastrophic failure.
So how do you fix it? Well, fittingly, the solution is at the infrastructure layer. We fix this by hardening the file system mount options directly in the server's configuration file. We're basically building in resilience at the lowest level, telling the system exactly how to handle timeouts and caching to prevent these hangs from ever even happening.
A professional migration absolutely requires clear boundaries. So once the infrastructure team has built the new server and moved all the raw data, there's a formal handoff to the development team. This makes sure everybody knows exactly what they're responsible for and nothing falls through the cracks.
And I just love the metaphor they use here. The infrastructure team handles the plumbing. That's the servers, the storage, the raw data transfer. They deliver a running, stable stack. Then, the development team comes in and handles the wiring. That's the application logic, the serialization-safe URL updates, activating licenses, and the final CSS regeneration. The division of labor is crystal clear.
And remember, the job isn't done just because the site goes live. A successful migration matures into a whole new phase of operations, one that's focused on active, intelligent monitoring to make sure that site stays stable and performs well for the long haul.
This is really where we move away from just hoping it works and into strategic oversight. By deploying modern AIOps tools, things like Elastic, we can get real-time anomaly detection. We can spot things like NFS latency spikes before they become a problem and use automated log analysis to figure out the root cause in minutes, not hours.
But of course, every professional plan needs a safety net. What happens if something goes catastrophically wrong during the cutover? Well, there's a plan for that too. A decision has to be made within 30 minutes and the entire rollback, activating the old site, restoring that final backup, is done in under 15 minutes. This isn't panic mode, this is a professional, predefined recovery protocol.
So, as we wrap this up, this is really the question to take with you. When you start planning your next big migration, just think about your foundation. Are you building on solid, hardened, infrastructure-level plumbing that's going to give you control and predictability? Or are you just kind of crossing your fingers and relying on a fragile Band-Aid? Because that choice, right there, defines the resilience of your entire digital architecture.